Adding new fish to your tank? For a lot of years I used the float the bag method. Acclimate my fish to my tank's temperature, net them out, and put them in. Well, there's another method I think is a little more effective. You might have heard of it. Coming up, how to drip acclimate new fish to your tank. Now, shock and stress can be potentially life-threatening to your fish, and there is no more of a stressful time than when your new fish have to adjust to your tank and new water parameters. Good acclimation is all about reducing as much stress and shock to the fish as they make the transition. But what are we actually acclimating to? Temperature, pH, water hardness, nutrient levels, and your general water parameters all have to be factored in. So while floating your bag for 15 or 20 minutes does help fish acclimate to your water temperature, it does not help them acclimate to your water parameters, and not acclimating to those can be deadly to your fish. Now, using the drip method will not only acclimate your fish to your tank's temperature, but also your water parameters. It'll do it slowly and methodically and will help reduce the shock and stress to your fish. Let me show you how I like to do it. Now, setting up a drip acclimation system is simple and very cost effective. You'll only need a few items. You'll need a bucket and a net. I'm going to build a new one here to show you what I like to do. I use airline holders, suction cups with a plastic bracing to anchor my airline tubing in my tank. A T-regulator, this will regulate the flow of water into the bag of fish. These are also used to regulate your airflow into your air stones. And of course you'll need flexible airline tubing, a pair of scissors, and you're all set. Now, assembly is very simple. All I'm going to do is cut a length of airline tubing, 3 to 4 feet, depending on how high your tank is, whether it's on a desk, a dresser, or a stand. And I'm going to cut one in and put it onto one end of my regulator. I'm going to cut one more piece of airline tubing, put it on the other end of my regulator, and I am done. Now, you'll see a lot of people that will use knots in their airline tubing to regulate the flow of water during drip acclimation. For me, I like using these regulators. It's easy to tighten or loosen them to adjust my water flow. Now, once I have my regulator and airline tubing assembled, over at the tank I will make my anchor. This is by using the airline holder, which is a simple suction cup and a plastic bracing. I can place my airline tubing into that bracing and anchor it to my tank. It just provides a little bit more stability as the water starts to flow down the airline tubing into the bag. And as a side note, yes, I am working on removing those hard water deposits around the inside of the tank. Started with a little gap there, and I'll be removing those one water change at a time. And here's the setup, starting from the anchor from the tank with the airline tubing running all the way down to a bucket on the floor. You can see the regulator there in the middle. That'll help me regulate my water flow. I'll start my siphon. Water will start flowing down the airline tubing, and based on where the regulator is set right now, you'll notice I get a nice slow drip. If I want a faster drip, all I have to do is loosen my regulator a little. If I want to return to a slower drip, I tighten it. It's as easy as a twist. Now, for me, this is a lot easier than having to tie a knot in my airline tubing and tighten or loosen that knot as necessary. Now, for fish that are a little bit more sensitive, I like a slower drip. For fish that might not be as sensitive to my water parameters or not as sensitive in general, I'll use a little bit of a faster drip. But in general, I'll drip acclimate for at least an hour. Once I get my water flow where I want it, in this particular case, about a drop per second, maybe a little faster than that, it's time to start the acclimation process. We open up our bag and start filling our bag with tank water drip by drip. I like to anchor my bag with a gravel vac clip onto the side of the bucket for stability. And I'll go back and check every 5 minutes or so, make sure everything's okay. I've got my timer here set for about an hour. And you can see the drips, you can see the flow of water into the bag. If you haven't acclimated for an hour and your bag is starting to fill up, one thing you can do is pour some of the water into the bucket and continue the acclimation process. Now, saltwater fish in particular sometimes need a couple hours of acclimation. Once the bag fills up, pour some of the excess water in the bucket and continue your acclimation process. Now, I've acclimated for about an hour here. It's time to add my fish to the tank. In my case here, I'm acclimating 2 auto sinkless and 1 rogue female guppy who ended up in the bag, must have ended up in the net when I bought my autos, but that's all right. We'll take her, we have a home for her. So I'll pour my new roommates into a net that I have stabilized on my bucket with some binder clips and immediately put them into my tank. You'll see 2 auto-sinkless catfish come out of my net, as well as my rogue female guppy, who apparently hitchhiked in the bag from my local fish store. But like I said, we have a home for her. Now, over the years, I've owned several auto-sinkless catfish, and I've noticed they're a sensitive fish in general, but they are particularly sensitive to changes in water parameters, so drip acclimation for them is a must. Now, once you add your fish into the tank, if they look a little washed out, that's normal. Transport and acclimation is a stressful time for your fish. They will color up. What I like to do is turn the lights off for 24 hours, just to give the new fish some quiet time to get used to their surroundings. This is taken the next night, and all of the autos are swimming around just happy as can be, as well as my rogue female guppy. They're getting used to their surroundings, they're getting used to their new tank roommates, all is well. And that's how I like to drip acclimate my fish. I do this with all new fish, regardless of their sensitivity. Now again, while the float the bag method is effective in acclimating fish to your tank temperature, it's not acclimating them to your water parameters. And I lost too many fish over the years by just acclimating them to temperature rather than temperature and my water parameters. I hope this was helpful. Please like, comment, and subscribe for future content, and thanks for watching.